Happy Sunday, Grizz Nation. It is time for another Grizz Game Day update. Today at 5 p.m. It is very early. The Grizzlies will tip off and take on the Toronto Raptors for the second time this season. First time in Memphis. Savanna Hamilton, everybody. First time in Memphis. Did you enjoy your stay last night?
I did. I had a lovely dinner with some great friends of mine. So, of course, a warm welcome by you, of course, Kelcey.
All right, good. It's going to be a little less warm when it tips off at 5 p.m. because there's no friends on the court, Savanna. So let's get into today's game. Are you ready?
Fair enough. Let's do it.
All right. So like I said, the game tips off at 5 p.m. I think one of the most important things to talk about is that there is a potential for the Grizzlies to have 4 out of 5 of their starters out tonight. Steven is still out. Dylan is serving his 1-game suspension, so he will be out. And then John and Jaren are both questionable. And now look, we played the Raptors already not too long ago, end of December. I think it was only Fred VanVleet that was out that game for the Raptors in terms of their starters. That could affect, obviously, greatly how the Raptors come into tonight looking for a win. They're 9-18 on the road. What would that do for them?
Well, I mean, a lot of things, because first of all, when the last time we played back in December, Dylan Brooks had quite the game and he's immediately off the table. So he always likes to step it up probably a notch for the home team that he hails from, but we don't got to worry about that this time. This also means that, Toronto, we have Fred in this case. He's playing great basketball as well. Like, he had a great game against Houston just throughout the course of the past 7 games on this road trip. This is game number 7 that we're heading into, and the team has been split 3-3. And they're just making a lot of momentum. And so if 4 of the starters are potentially out for Memphis, that means that Raptors have a real opportunity to take advantage of that. And as they should, because on the Raptors side of things, the only listed out player truly is OG Anunoby with that left wrist sprain that he got earlier in the trip. So other than that, the Raptors have a real advantage and they should be able to get the job done.
I'm not going to agree to that, but especially because when we look at it was 119-106 in December. All 5 of the Grizzlies starters hit double digits. Dylan had 25, like you said. Steven Adams had 14 and 17. Ja had 19. They were all hitting on all cylinders. But what surprised me about that game was the bench points, actually, because that is a category the Grizzlies do so well usually, yet they were outscored. There was 47 points off of that bench, led by Gary Trent Jr., who had 20 points. But of course, he's not always going to be on that bench unit. Talk to me about some of the guys on your team so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big presence that was in the game that was coming off the bench was Chris Boucher as well. So he's been a very steady force throughout the course of the season. He's had some ups and downs, but overall pretty steady. And especially in this road trip, he's been just taking it up another notch. In fact, the last game against Houston that the Raptors played, he was the only one off the bench that actually contributed any double-digit scoring there. So, you can expect him to have a big presence. Precious Achiuwa, he was a guy that was also coming, I believe, was he playing in this one? No, he was injured the first time that we saw each other. And so now he's available, and instead he's actually been starting in replacement of OG. But when he was coming off the bench, he was also that big spark. And so now he's added that spark to the starting lineup. So you can expect a lot of athleticism, a lot of great in-game decisions. He doesn't force things. So he's going to be a major factor when contributing to today's game as well. So look out for him.
And of course,
but then other than that,
he's playing in his college.
In his college
town. Kind of a homecoming for him.
Exactly. Oh, good point there. Awesome point there. But yeah, so then there's him. So he's going to be having probably that same Dylan Brooks energy that Dylan brings to Toronto. He's probably going to bring it to Memphis, especially now that he's starting. And then, of course, you have Gary, as you mentioned, right? Gary was coming off the bench at that point in time. I know coach was trying a few different things, but now Gary's back in the starting lineup and he's beyond energized and he's been very consistent. He's been a staple in the Toronto Raptors, makeup and their identity. So I think it's going to be a really great game. Like I said, it's tilted to the Raptors' favor just because of the fact that you guys are missing a lot of players, Memphis is, and then the Raptors are very healthy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the identity of this team, though, because we only have seen this team once, of course. The Grizzlies are 8th in points. The Raptors bottom 10. Rebounding, the Grizzlies are 2nd. Raptors bottom 10 again. Even defensive rating, Grizzlies 3rd, Raptors 20th. There's so many different things that the Grizzlies do so well that the Raptors don't. And of course, I'm going to get to what the Raptors do well as well. But I mean, points, rebounding, defensive rating. The Grizzlies, you would think, have the way upper hand in that. How do you expect the Raptors to come in and kind of thrive on their defensive end?
Well, defense has been this season for the Raptors a little bit up and down. That's been a point of emphasis that Coach Nurse has brought up many, many times. However, that being said, there's like a relationship between defense and turnovers, forced turnovers, that the Raptors have been thriving off of. Like they believe they lead the league right now in forcing opponents turnovers. So that's kind of been their saving grace, which tells you that the Raptors defensive style is big risk, big rewards. So as well, they have collapses oftentimes, like you'll see it down the stretch. They could also have a lot of steals that game. And so that's how they almost make up on the offense through fast break and then running a play on the other end. They want to pick up the pace of their opponents against obviously a Memphis team. You guys are very much known for pace. And so that's something that is going to be a very interesting thing to look out for today. And so I'd be curious to see how the Raptors approach, guys like Ja, but if that is, once again, if they're healthy, but if not, then I would see the Raptors having the advantage just because they could probably bring that like similar level of defensive intensity to force turnovers with guys that are not as, with guys that are still strong, but are coming off the bench in this case against the Raptors starters. Yeah,
you mentioned pace. The Grizzlies 5th in pace, the Raptors 26th. However, these two teams are number 2 and number 3 in the league in fast break points. Who's the leader in your fast break points for the Raptors? Who's pushing the pace for them?
Oh man, like there's so many main characters that like are the reason for that. I have to think about Precious again. I have to think about even, the steals that Fred VanVleet can kind of cause and then push the ball up the court. And then Gary Trent Jr., of course. And then if OG was healthy, I would say him probably first off the list just because he is the league leader in steals. And so he's been a huge factor in that. But aside from him, like there's just been so much deflections and like defensive intensity that the Raptors have been able to bring. If I really think just through 5, like they built their structure, their team, so that at any point in time there's switchability and there's not going to be a major mismatch, if maybe with the exception of Fred, and that's something that he's addressed in the past. But outside of that, like, you could see Pascal getting a steal. Like Precious, he's not the tallest guy in the court oftentimes, but he plays the 5 position. And so that like athleticism oftentimes like gives them that benefit of pushing the ball down the floor and getting like I said, forced turnovers that create steals, that create offensive opportunities. So between the two teams tonight, I think the Raptors definitely have the edge in that one.
All right. Very cool. I will say the one thing for the Grizzlies is you want to see Dez and Danny have big games from the 3-point line. And then obviously the health will be kind of the main deciding factor here for the Grizzlies. Although I will say last year, there was a game where I think 4 or 5 starters were out against the Suns, who were leading the league at the time, and they came out with a W on that one. So next man mentality, you love to see it.
We can predict. We can predict all we want, but honestly, it's up to them. They have to perform. So.
And we are just a few hours before we're going to start getting ready and get there for tip off. So Grizzlies fans, if you are coming to the arena, remember that it is 5 p.m. tip. So get there nice and early. If you're watching at home, it's on Bally Sports Southeast and the Bally Sports Bally Sports Plus app. Savannah, thank you so much. And I'll see you so soon at the arena.